This is Christian Voices from the Middle East, a podcast ministry of the Order of St. George the Great Martyr. I'm your host, Maxwell Marcus. I'm grateful to introduce our guest, Tony Khashram. Born in Jerusalem in 1959, Tony holds an MA in travel and tourism and has many years of management experience. Mr. Khashram is the managing director of Aeolus Tours, past president of the Holy Land Incoming Tour Operators Association, and past chairman of the Coordinating Catholic Aid Organizations, in addition to consulting on destination tourism projects and for small startup businesses. He is part of several charitable organizations, past vice president of St. Vincent de Paul Society, and past vice president of the Jerusalem Christian Community Development Association. He's also on the board of the Jerusalem International YMCA. Thank you for being with us, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, let's start off with a little bit about your past. Can you tell me about where you're from?
Well, I'm from Jerusalem. My family goes back to nearly 800 years in Jerusalem. And we are one of the non-Christian families, non-Christian remaining families, because the numbers have decreased dramatically. I mean, numbers of the Christians here in the Holy Land. Yeah. I'm married. I have 3 boys. I mean, right now they are men. They are working with me. 2 of them are working with me at the tour operation, tourism business here. And the third is in the medical field, actually. As you presented me, I'm part of several organizations, and I love Jerusalem. I mean, Jerusalem is my life.
Beautiful. Can you tell me a little bit about your childhood growing up in Jerusalem and what that looked like?
Well, I was brought up in Jerusalem with a working mother and a gymnastic teacher father. And I finished my studies at the Collège des Frères. It's a French school here in Jerusalem, then graduated at the university, and I went to the Gulf for a while, worked for 8 years at IBM, and then came back here and started my own business.
So when you were growing up in the area, tourism was obviously all around you. If anything, I've seen that it makes up for a large portion of the economic stability in the area for the Christians in the Holy Land. What inspired you to get into that industry?
Well, my great-grandfather started to work in the tourism business in 1874. That's 150 years ago. And that was in Jerusalem. He had an office. He was also a guide, a certified guide, and he used to sell souvenirs from the Holy Land. So he used to do the 3 things together. And he spoke several languages. At that time, there was no internet, no emails, no fax, nothing. I mean, he used to write a letter, which we still have the letters here, let's say to a church somewhere in Europe, and say, yeah, I understood you're coming next Easter. And next Easter, the group will come to Jaffa. My great-grandfather will go down to Jaffa with the carriages and the horses and to pick up the group. It's the group that comes on a ship to Jaffa. And then with bodyguards, they used to leave Jaffa to come to Jerusalem as pilgrims. The group will come as pilgrims from Europe and will stay in the old city of Jerusalem at houses. There were no hotels at that time as hotels we know right, I mean now. So they used to rent beds at houses, and these pilgrims used to sleep there for 1 week, 2 weeks. It depends when their ship will travel back to Europe, the same thing. And it started, and then it continued. So what inspired me to do that again was the sense of belonging I have towards Jerusalem and the family history in the pilgrimages or pilgrimage businesses here in the Holy Land. And, it evolved. It became much more into a business type of operation. And now my boys are taking care of it.
That's beautiful. You mentioned that when your father took part in this, that he would need bodyguards to bring the pilgrims in. What type of threats did he face in his time, and what type of threats do you see now towards pilgrimage?
I'm talking about my great-grandfather, not
Or your
father.
great-grandfather, excuse me.
That was 1874. The thieves, normal thieves, because the pilgrims used to come with money, with food, sometimes with gold, with silver, precious metals to sell, because they needed money also to survive here. This was one part of the pilgrimages at that time. The other part was the pilgrims that used to come, the Orthodox pilgrims that used to come from Russia. They used to come walking from Moscow, from wherever in Russia. They used to walk for 6 months, get here on foot. They used to come with probably animals and things like that. So, and they used to have to bring with them also precious metals, and then gold and silver and money and food and so many things. And they used to stay here for 6 months, 4 months, and whoever survives will go back walking to Russia. And that's why the Russians here had several pilgrims houses. If you come to Jerusalem and see, the Russians have several pilgrims houses. Okay, now there are Catholic, there are Orthodox, there are Russian, there are Presbyterian, Anglican, guest houses, Christian guest houses, and hotels. But at that time, that was the whole thing. Some of them would die while coming here, and then others will give birth. So the whole pilgrimage thing is an industry that generations after generations have lived on.
Can you tell me a little bit about what separates pilgrimage from just tourism on its own? It sounds like there's something a little bit more sacred and more involved about making a pilgrimage and coming to Jerusalem rather than just coming to see the sights.
Well, pilgrimages are groups, or pilgrims are groups that come to go within the steps of our Lord Jesus Christ. The way Jesus was brought up here, lived here, walked here, crucified, and ascended, So most of 99% of the pilgrims, they come here because at their own churches, in their own cities and towns, they read the Bible, they hear what their priests say or what their pastors say, what their fathers say, and they have never seen or touched in their own hands or seen in their own eyes the real places that Jesus Christ lived, suffered, and crucified, and ascended. So every Christian around the world would love to do it at least once in a lifetime. Tourism is totally different. Tourism, we don't have tourist attraction places. In the US, if you go to Florida or in Hawaii or other places in Europe and so on, it has to do with tourism. But here it's mainly pilgrimage to the Holy Land.
Very cool. Very interesting. I would love to visit myself one day. I hope you can give me a tour in my pilgrimage when I visit.
Yeah.
But speaking of coming to visit in modern times, we discussed earlier prior to the podcast that this is a very dangerous time right now in Jerusalem, and I'm sure that hurts pilgrimage efforts, and that hurts the economic stability of the Christian region. Can you tell me a bit about that current struggle and what it looks like in our modern world?
See, before the establishment of Israel, the number of Christians in the Holy Land were around 25%. Nowadays, we are talking about 1%. Again, 1%. Most of the Christians have left because of the so long occupation and wars and things like that. And what is remaining, or what the remaining Christians are something like maybe 300,000 out of 10 million. And I'm talking the Holy Land, which is the Palestinian territories and Israel. In Gaza, there were around 5,000 Christians. Now there are only 600. In the West Bank, there were 150,000. Now there are 40,000. In Jerusalem, we are only 9,000. I'm talking about all denominations. Inside Israel, they were probably 1 million or even less, but now they are 140,000. So the Christians are leaving because of the situation. Now, if we want to talk about economic situation, yes, most of the Christians work in the pilgrimage tourism industry. Most of the tourism pilgrimages providers, talking about incoming tour operators, hotels, guides, professional guides, even bus drivers, souvenir shops, are Christians. And unfortunately, whenever war is there and there is no stability here, this business or their businesses, the Christian businesses, collapse, and thus they will leave. The young people will leave. So it's not easy. It is a disaster for the Christian community here. And if you take the other side of it, sorry to say that Christians around the world, probably they do not know the reality here, or they seems to know that in the Holy Land there are only Jews and Muslims. No, there are Christians. I mean, as I said, my family goes back to 800 years, but there are families here 1,600 years, even families that are related at the time of Jesus, when the Holy Sepulchre was built, and so on. So this is probably will be a good message to the Christians around the world to, first of all, to dig more and know more about the remaining Christians here. And believe me, the remaining Christians here will only survive if they have the support, at least, of the Christians living outside the Holy Land.
What is it that you think the Christians outside of the Holy Land, or the Christians in the West, misunderstand about Jerusalem or the Christians in the Holy Land? Besides, you mentioned, I think most or many people aren't even aware of the Christian presence in the Holy Land and for how long it has been there. But what else do you think people in the West or outside of the Holy Land misunderstand about the people in the region?
First of all, any Christian living outside and attends church on Sundays or other days, I mean, they will read the Bible. They will read, or they will hear to the priest what the congregation was talking about, and so on. Number one, dig and see and understand and read. Now it's easy. The internet is all there. You have hundreds of websites that talks about the Christians of the Holy Land. So awareness, advocacy. They have to get into that by time. They understand. The second thing is to visit. Come and visit, even at difficult times. Difficult times will never be at all times. Sometimes it relaxes a little bit. So come and visit and make it at least a habit of once in a lifetime. Instead of going, I don't know, to Europe, come to the Holy Land and you can do it. Things have changed. You have lots of flights, you have accommodation, lots of hotels. people have changed. You can do your homework on the internet and see the lovely sites of the Holy Land on the internet, but then come to have the experience of visiting. We normally, as tour operators, say we sell experience. We don't sell holy sites. The destination is not sellable like that anymore. Before, the pilgrims used to come with a book, and go within the book where a writer or a priest or somebody wrote about the Holy Land. Nowadays, it's totally different. You go onto internet, you can gather information as much as you want. So the second thing is the visit. The third thing is, which I always try to talk about, is the young generation. The young generation need to also be part of this experience. So we, as local Christians, started to sell the pilgrimage visits. We call it pilgrimage plus, which means because the young people, they do not attend churches a lot, and they are not involved in the Bible, in the masses, in the services, and so on, we tell them, come, do the pilgrimage, but we have something called plus. The plus is something else. The plus is visiting local Christians. The plus is talking to local people here that are, the living stones that are here, and understand how they live, how they eat, what type of food, what type of drinks. If you look, a very small example of the wineries. Wineries here are since the time of Jesus. Because wine was served at that time. So you could see archaeological sites of wineries since the time of Jesus. This is one of the, plus. We say pilgrimage plus. So this is the third point. I'm talking about the young people. Come and see, instead of taking your backpack and going to Spain, pass by, come here and learn more about it. Interesting. Now, other small things is to open dialogues at the churches in the Western world and talk about the Holy Land and talk about the pilgrimages, the holy sites, talk about what's going on here. It's not wrong to talk about some politics or some issues that are going on right now. So these are the general things, Marcus.
Can you tell me some of those issues that you're facing and how Christians outside of the Holy Land could help?
Well, let's do it by categories. One, right now, most of the Christians living in the West Bank cannot access the holy sites in Jerusalem because there are 1,200 Israeli checkpoints, which means Christians in Bethlehem, they cannot come to Jerusalem without a special permit. Christians in Ramallah, they cannot without coming to Jerusalem without a special permit. So permissions, checkpoints, part of the occupation system, and so on. This is number one. So people, they have to know about that. They have to know that the local Christians are not able to access the holy sites. The other thing is that because of the situation, lots of Christians have immigrated to the US, Canada, Sweden, some European countries, and some Arab countries. There are no jobs. Financial issues are very limited. So the young people will have to find new places to go and not only survive, but work, send money to their families here, and so on. The third thing is we Christians prefer that our children are brought up at Christian schools with Christian values. This is becoming very difficult somehow because these Christian institutions, because of the war, are somehow bankrupt. And we have a problem because the Christian curriculum at these schools need financial support and financial help. So this is the third thing. The fourth thing is, in order to keep the Christian families here, they need financial support. I mean, I want to say it bluntly and openly. The Jews, they are getting funds from the US in billions of dollars from their families, from their relatives, from the US government, Canadian government, and so on. The Muslims are getting financial aid from the Arab countries, from the Gulf countries. Christians are getting very little. So these small amounts are not sufficient. It's not the issue of begging. It's the issue of responsibility. There is a social responsibility that the Christians around the world should have towards the remaining Christians of the Holy Land. If they want to keep Christians in the Holy Land, they have to support them. And it's not something wrong to support the remaining Christians. The numbers are very little here. I mean, it's very easy with little amounts to let these remaining Christians survive until things change, until peace prevails, and then people will go back to work in the pilgrimage business, tourism service providers, and so on. So this is another issue that Christians around the world should do something about.
Why do you think there is a disconnect with the Christians around the world and their financing of the Christians in the Holy Land? You know, you mentioned that the Jewish people in the Holy Land, that they have financial support from all over, that the Muslims have financial support from all over. Why is there this disconnect between the Christians outside and the Christians there, and why isn't there an equal level of support, especially considering you said the number is so finite?
Yeah. The problem is you need the people who will work hard on that. The Jewish lobby and the Jewish organizations around the world work hard for that. The same with the Muslims. Christians, we do not have strong lobbying around the world. We have small lobbying, which is not enough at all. Some of the issues. Christians need housing in Jerusalem. Very expensive housing. So very little people are getting married. Very little young Christians are getting married because they cannot afford it. So they need housing. And for doing new housing projects, it's not a big deal. The only thing is needed is money, and the money can be fundraised by organizations that really lobby for that. And this will not come just like that. It needs awareness, it needs visiting, it needs people interested in that, and it needs to contact the local Christians to know their problems, to know how they can solve the problems, and so on. There are Christian institutions here, but they are not enough. I mean, we have the Pontifical Mission, we have the Orthodox Society, but they all work on a very small scale with limited funds. The need is much more than that. And believe me, if any young Christian couple have the opportunity to have a small apartment and a job, they will stay. Well, they will stay. Why should they bother to run into a new life with difficulties and as they say, paycheck to paycheck and from 6 to 6? And here it's their families, the place they live. They know how to survive here. The only thing is they need some push to stay.
You mentioned that there are very few organizations that are currently coming together to help the Christians in this region. One of the organizations is our organization, the Holy Orthodox Order of St. George the Great Martyr. Can you tell me a bit about your role in the order as our spokesperson in Jerusalem?
Well, I belong to the order. I'm actually a member of the order. I'm a good reference to the order, which means anyone from the order can ask me about how things are going on, if they need anything from the head of the churches, of the Greek Orthodox Patriarch, about if they want to help any family here. I know all the families here, all the Christian families and the Orthodox families. So I'm a good reference for the order in the Holy Land.
How did you first hear about the Order of St. George?
Well, I was contacted by a member of the order, and I was told that the order would like to come on a pilgrimage here. So I did the whole thing, and at that time, when the pilgrimage came, the war was have started in summer with Iran and so on. If you remember that, this late summer, I was in the U.S. actually, but my son here, Dimitri, okay, took care of the pilgrimage, and they went to several countries. They went to Greece, they went to Turkey to visit the patriarchs and so on. They went to Jordan, to the Holy Land here, they went to Egypt, St. Catherine, and so on. And my son was with them actually. And this pilgrimage was a success. Uh, the whole thing was facilitated because of our contacts here. We know the people, we know how to manage these things. Again, I would say I'm a good reference to the order and to the members of the order.
I want to switch gears a little bit and ask you a little bit about your faith. We talked briefly about your childhood and your upbringing, but I would love to know about your walk with Christ and what that looked like in your childhood and how it expanded over time.
See, when my father was a religious person, a Christian religious person. We come from an Orthodox family. I mean, years and years here. And it's at the school, you know, we have at the Collège de Frères, which is the school in an area called the New Gate in the old city of Jerusalem. We had to go and attend church, you know, like any other Christian school. And by time you become part of the whole Christian, I will call it institution here, because here we don't say I'm a Catholic or an Orthodox or a Presbyterian or Anglican or Lutheran. We always say we are Christians here, because I mean, if you want to come to Jerusalem and ask how many Catholics there are 4,000 in whole Jerusalem, which is probably 10% of a congregation of any church in the US. If you want to ask how many Orthodox Christians here, we have 3,000 Orthodox. How many Anglicans? We have 600. So the numbers are very little here. I mean, just imagine, it's not like in the US or other places around the world when a church or a diocese have tens of thousands of members. No. So you become to know all the Christians around you. You become to know the way every denomination experience the service, the mass, the habits, the traditions, and so on. Because we are one. We talk to each other. We go to their houses. We are invited to their homes, and we invite them to our homes. We go to their churches. They come to our churches. So this whole thing will actually make you belong to the idea of being a Christian in the Holy Land. So I can say it has to do with nationalism. It makes you as a Christian part of the land of the Lord, of the Holy Land, as a Christian. Yeah.
This is beautiful. I think we could learn a lot from the Christians in Jerusalem about unity, unity in the church. I
Yeah.
think that's something that we struggle with here in the West. We have countless denominations, and there's nothing wrong with different types of denominations, but you often don't see that commingling or that cohabitation that you're discussing, or that communion together. And I think that this is something Christ would have wanted, was to see the Christians standing together and identifying together and working together and eating together. Is there something about the lifestyle of a persecuted Christian that removes these boundaries with our brothers and sisters, where when we are comfortable, maybe here in the West, to isolate and to compartmentalize because of a lack of persecution? Do you think that this is the opposite, where there is a large amount of persecution that brings the Christians together?
Oh yes, 100%, 100%. We here are living in a way that we cannot become Jews and we cannot become Muslims. We don't want to. I mean, we are Christians. And because of being a minority, we get, young couples. You see that one is Catholic, the other is Orthodox. They get married. They get married at an Orthodox church, and vice versa. The fellow is Armenian, and she is Catholic. They get married at an Armenian church. So this is how it goes. So you have relatives, you have friends, you have community together, and because exactly of what you have said, the persecution itself brings a unity at the end. Now, let's talk about a small housing project. You go to a small housing project, a Christian housing project, you will see all the denominations. You will see Catholics, Orthodox, Armenians, Copts, and so on. So this is how it goes here because of the small numbers.
Hmm. Can you give me an example of a time when Christians came together that you witnessed in face of persecution, and how they helped each other and how they took care of each other?
Well, at the time of COVID, they were all united, especially with distribution of food and things like that. At the time of wars, in 1948, in 1967, at the time of the curfews, and at the time of troubles. Uh, Examples are probably nearly every day. I mean,
Is there something that you experienced that struck you, moments where people came together that really inspired you, that you feel might inspire our viewers?
again, at the time of COVID, 2 years of difficulties. Like any other country in the world, restrictions were imposed on everybody here. But some people were not able to go to their jobs. Some people were not getting their salaries on time or even nothing at all. So families used to help each other financially. And I mean, financial is not only money. The neighbor will cook something and will give the other neighbor, you know?
Mm.
Let's say this today they cooked, I don't know, some rice and some vegetables. Part of that will be to the other neighbor. They know that financially she or he is not all right. Others, the electricity bill was not paid because of financial issues like now in the war. So somebody will adopt paying that electricity bill or gas bill or something. So things like that. I mean, uh, things that are simple, but they have an effect.
I like to ask on this podcast, I want to start to make it a habit because I did it on the last podcast. I want to ask our guests about miracles, especially our guests that are from a place of miracles like yourself. Uh, have you ever witnessed what you would call a miracle? And would like to share it with our audience?
Well, the issue of a miracle is different to one to another person. I mean, but most of the Christians here, they do believe in miracles. They pray for miracles, especially at the time of difficulties, sickness. In the churches, they always mention these things, and because of the how the Christian community was brought up along the years at Christian schools and Christian churches and so on. So it's in the community. All Christians here, they believe in miracles to a certain extent. Myself, I did not really witness, I mean, in my own eyes, a miracle, but I know miracles happen. So, yeah, but the Christian community here, they believe in miracles. So they pray, they ask the Lord to help, and so on.
And I'd say you have three miracles in your children.
Thanks God.
Absolutely. When people hear the term Middle Eastern Christian, what do they get wrong? What do you think people misunderstand about your community?
The problem is the media. For a long time, the media in the Western world mentioned very little about the remaining Christians in the Middle East. They always mentioned, unfortunately, they mentioned Israel, they mentioned the Jews, they mentioned the Muslims and the bad issues they are presented with, but rarely they mentioned the Christians. I mean, in Iraq, there were millions of Christians. Nowadays, you don't have 600,000. Okay. Why? Because of the war. Okay, it's not because of the Muslim persecution, it's because of the war. The same in Syria. Syria had a couple of millions of Christians, and now there aren't even 300,000 Christians. Okay, because of the war. And it's not because of the Muslim persecution, but the media translates that around the world in a different way with some different agendas. They have their own different agendas. So people in the Western world, they don't hear a lot about Christians. But if you come to history, if you come to the time of Jesus, before Islam, most of the Middle East was Christians. In Syria, in Iraq, in even in the Gulf countries, there were churches and so on. Nobody talks about them.
And what happened to those Christians? Did majority of them migrate, or were they killed?
See, wars were there a lot. Most of the Christians they left because of wars. At a certain period of time, there were the Islamic wars. At a certain period of time, there were the Crusaders. At a certain time, there were the Turks here. Then the British, the French, now the Israelis, and so on. So they leave.
That makes sense. If you could give one message to the Christians of the West right now, if you could say one thing that you feel hasn't been said, what would that be?
My message at all times is look at the remaining Christians here in the Holy Land. Try to ask questions, seek answers about what's going on here, not just listen to the commercial media that now you can see that on social media. Connect with local people. It's very easy to connect nowadays. It's not like before. I mean, I'm talking to you on Zoom. You are something like thousands of miles away from Jerusalem. And look how we are communicating. This can be done. So let, as Christians around the world, be interested in the local Christians. Christian institutions around the world, be interested in the local communities here. The Holy Land is the cradle and the essence of Christianity. I mean, Christianity came out from here, not from New York or London or Paris, you know. So connect. And for sure, after connecting, advocate, talk about us.
Absolutely. What type of resources? Obviously, we have the Order of St. George in our ecclesiastical mission to help the people in the Holy Land, the Christians in the Holy Land. What other types of resources do you think people could utilize to connect? I think there's a lot of Christians in the West here that don't know how to get involved with the Christians in the Middle East and in the Holy Land specifically. And I think maybe some of them are even hesitant because they're worried of something that's not legitimate or something that's not, going to actually help. What would you recommend as far as resources for people looking to get involved?
Connect with people like me. Connect with Christian institutions here. They are not a lot, so you can easily just Google them and get their addresses and their emails. Write to them. Get more involved. Do some homework. Understand or read what's going on here. A lot are interested. As I said, the Jewish community and the Muslim community, they are doing their homework. They know what's going on here. They are in connection with the locals here. So they can start, the Christians, they can, around the world, can start connecting with the local Christians. And by time, they will start to understand what's going on. They will start to understand the needs, how to tackle these needs, how to solve the issues, and make a much more stronger relationship between the Western world and the remaining Christians here.
A continuation of that unity that we discussed. Beyond that unity that we can learn from the communities, the Christian communities in Jerusalem and in the Holy Land, what else do you think that Christians outside of Palestine could learn from Palestinian Christians?
Let's say resilience, struggle to remain and live under pressure, under war, under problems and so on. So this is not in the West. In the West, you have all these beautiful, relaxed way of, even with hard working, but still is relaxing concerning what we lived in here. We can talk about persecution a lot. We can talk about being under occupation and
Can you
what
tell
you
me a
can.
bit about those experiences? I
Well,
think that we don't know
I
too
mean,
much because our media tends to shy away from those problems.
I mean, in any other place around the world which is governed by uh, let's say occupation, okay, there are restrictions. There are a little permission of movement. you are not getting all your rights as a citizen or as part of the community.
What type of rights are you kept from? Besides, you mentioned the right to travel.
It depends where you live. If you live in the West Bank, a lot of rights are not given to you. I mean, on a simple basis, you might not be getting water to your house every day. I mean, very
So you're
simple.
saying that there are Christians in the West Bank that don't even have the right to clean water or water at all.
Yeah, because water is not accessible all the time. Okay. Uh, Food is not accessible all the time in the West Bank. Petrol is not accessible all the time. And so many issues. See, I don't want to spend so much time on telling you these things because you can get it on so many websites that will tell you what's going on here. The most important is that people or Christians around the world should be much more connected to the local Christians here in order to know what's going on.
Hmm. I think it'll definitely help them to have heard those words from your mouth and to hear the experience of a Christian living there personally. Amongst all of this persecution and struggles, how have you kept your faith? What has been your fuel to keep the fire of your faith for Christ burning amongst the hardest times?
Prayers,
Hmm.
that's all.
Beautiful.
You cannot go and fight back, it doesn't work. We are the weak minority here. So prayers, hope, anticipation.
I think that's good advice. I think we could all pray a little bit more and hope a little bit more. That might be a perfect note to end our podcast on here. Good message to leave everyone with. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, because you are representing the Orthodox order, I think in the US there are a lot of Orthodox people, I mean, communities. Every state there are churches, even I understood there are more than churches, there are institutions and so on. I think the order should start seriously connecting with these institutions.
Hmm.
Not 100, not 200. You might get maybe 600, 700,000 members at this order. And then things will change. And then you will have not only financial strength, but also a different way of connecting to the Holy Land. You will have much more people coming, much more awareness. People will start advocating what's going on here to their children, grandchildren, and so on. It builds up. So my advice is the order should do more to bring more Orthodox members into the order. I mean, and start working into that circle. The more members, the more you can have people connected to the Holy Land.
That's good advice. And the Order of St. George will continue to expand our mission, and hopefully we can reach that goal and be of service more and more for your community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here with me, Mr. Khashram.
Thank you. And I would love to, whenever you finish producing this, this podcast, I would like to receive a link, to watch
Absolutely.
it again and so on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got it. Well, we'll
Thank you
stop the
for your
recording
time.
here. Thank you for your time, brother. We really appreciate it. I know the audience does too. And hopefully we can also have you back maybe for another podcast. And I'll see you in Jerusalem personally, hopefully when I get to
Yes.
visit.
Please come to Jerusalem. I'll be there for you.
Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate it.
Most
God bless
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
Be safe. May your family be safe. God be with you. In the mighty name of Christ.
Thank you. Thank you. Same to you, Marcus. Thank you, Marcus.
This has been the Holy Orthodox Order of St. George with our guest, Tony Khashram. Thank you for being here with us, and may God be with you.